Hello, I am Marie Jensen, and I am so excited to welcome you to the land beneath NYU, Mannahatta to Manhattan, the geography, history, and future challenges for Lower Manhattan. New York University buildings are found around New York City, with the main campus centered around Washington Square Park. New York City sits on the east coast of the United States. Manhattan is the island in the middle of the 5 boroughs of New York City, the other ones being Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and Staten Island. And Washington Square Park sits in Lower Manhattan in the West Village, also called Greenwich Village. The same land has been the center of human activity for millennia. Called Manahatta, or Island of Many Hills, by the Lenape people, Mannahatta Island and its surrounding areas were home to the Lenape for more than 400 generations prior to Henry Hudson's arrival in 1609. A land acknowledgement was developed by the Department of Media, Culture, and Communication at NYU's Steinhardt School. This is the only known land acknowledgement from any department, institute, or program at New York University written in consultation with Lenape people, a fact that speaks volumes about how rarely we reckon with this history. This image is a 1892 reimagining of Mannahatta Island in the 16th century. You can see maybe the first European ship captained by Giovanni di Verrazzano in 1524. European explorers encountered a landscape that was unimaginably rich in diversity. Mannahatta supported 55 distinct ecosystems. To put this in perspective, Yellowstone National Park contains 66 ecosystems. The island was covered in dense old-growth oak and hickory forests. Whales, porpoises, and sea turtles swam in the rivers. Today, a whale near Manhattan is so rare it makes the news, like this humpback whale from 2020. The Lenape people grew the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash near what is now City Hall Park. The collision between the Europeans and Lenape really began in 1626, 17 years after Henry Hudson first landed on Mannahatta. The Dutch claimed they purchased Mannahatta Island from the Lenape for the equivalent of $24 in today's money. The Lenape likely understood this exchange as an agreement to share the land, not to surrender it entirely. This misunderstanding quickly hardened into systematic displacement. The Dutch established a settlement in Lower Manhattan and built a wall to keep both the Lenape people and the British out of what they now considered their territory. This wall became today's Wall Street. The Dutch were the first to bring enslaved Africans to Manhattan. When the British captured New York in 1664, they institutionalized slavery, banning church marriages for slaves and separating slave families. The city established a slave market on Wall Street's waterfront, and by the 1740s, New York had the 13 colonies' second largest enslaved population, comprising 21% of the city's residents. Though New York abolished slavery in 1827, non-residents could hold slaves until 1841, and the city's economic ties to the South enabled continued kidnapping and trafficking of free blacks until the Civil War in the 1860s. Manhattan's colonial transformation came at a devastating cost, as we've seen, to the indigenous people, to enslaved people, and also to the natural environment. For instance, Collect Pond was central to Lenape life. This body of water was fed by natural springs, covered more than 5 acres, and reached depths of 80 feet. The city gradually laid streets over Collect Pond until by 1811, this vital habitat was gone forever. The area where the pond once provided clean water started stinking, emitting putrid odors, and became the notorious 5 Points district, the nation's first proper slum. The 1730s portrayal, and I apologize in advance for my terrible pronunciation, depicts Lenape sachem Tishohan from Pennsylvania. There are no images of the Lenape from Mannahatta that exist today. By 1870s, most of the Lenape people who survived death and enslavement were forced progressively westward, finally reaching Oklahoma, and renamed themselves the Delaware Nation. This map shows the island as it appeared in 1609 with elevations and original shorelines. The street grid overlay is from 1909. The red arrow points at Washington Square Park. At just 7 feet above sea level, the area between the Manhattan Bridge and Brooklyn Bridge is the lowest point on the island, while the highest point of Lower Manhattan is only 13 feet above sea level. These are concerning numbers because New York City is sinking 1 to 2 millimeters per year. It's accelerated by the combined weight of the city's buildings, which is 1.68 trillion pounds. Also, data shows that if the planet warms by 2 degrees Celsius, sea levels will rise about 20 feet. Here's what Lower Manhattan would look like if sea levels rise by just 8 feet. A rising ocean is guaranteed. The only question is how quickly it will happen. No comprehensive plan has been put into action to mitigate this climate change crisis. NYU is the 10th largest property owner in Manhattan, and it's expanding onto land that is both sinking and in danger from rising ocean waters. Much of NYU's land could be underwater by as soon as the end of this century. Just as the Lenape were displaced by European colonization, contemporary communities may face displacement by climate change. The people who call Manhattan Island home today reflect both the progress and the persistent inequalities that characterize this transformed landscape. The island is becoming more racially diverse. The white population decreased from 57% in 2010 to 50% in the most recent census. However, American Indian and Alaska Native populations were at about 0.5% in both censuses. The descendants of the people who called this land home for 10,000 years now represent one of the smallest demographic groups on the island. The economic realities reveal the continuing transformation of Manhattan into a landscape of extreme inequality. Median gross rent increased from $1,490 in 2013 to $2,169 in 2023, a 46% increase that far outpaces inflation. Home buying prices are also high. Only 8% of homes cost less than $300,000. This keeps the prospect of owning a home well out of reach for many Manhattan families. Median household income did grow from about $72,000 in 2013 to about $101,000 in 2023, but allowing for inflation, this does fall short of covering the rise in median rental costs. There is some good news. The overall poverty rate fell between 2013 and 2023, and the percentage of Manhattan residents without health insurance dropped dramatically from 9.3% to 4%. These improvements do mask persistent patterns of marginalization. 1 in 5 children in Manhattan faces food insecurity every day. Also troubling, people over 65 have increasing economic hardships. Washington Square tells 3 interconnected stories. The first story is Indigenous erasure. The Lenape people called this land home for 10,000 years, developing sustainable relationships with 55 different ecosystems. Their displacement made NYU possible. Every classroom, every dormitory sits on land that was never truly sold in any sense that the original inhabitants would have ever recognized. The second story is environmental precarity and hubris. NYU is expanding onto land that is literally sinking while sea levels rise. The third story is told through demographics and reveals how displacement and inequality persist. The most vulnerable populations, children and seniors, continue to experience economic hardship at rates approaching 1 in 5 residents. Housing market forces continue to shape who gets to remain on this valuable land. The ground Americans stand on anywhere in the United States connects us to both historical responsibilities and future possibilities. Every time NYU students gather in Washington Square, we're participating in this ongoing story of transformation. Thank you for joining me for The Land Beneath NYU. I'm Marie Jensen.